In this video, we'll see how to adjust the field of view in SketchUp, especially the relationship between the field of view and focal length, and how these specific numerical values interact with and influence rendering in V-Ray and Enscape. Now, let's dive right in and get started with the process. In photography, we talk about focal length, whereas in SketchUp, we find a value expressed in degrees of angle opening. What is the relationship between these two terms? Well, in photography, you use a camera. And so, there is a certain focal length that goes from the center of the lens to the sensor or film of the camera. A normal focal length is considered to be 50 millimeters and simulates human vision. If instead we bring these two planes closer together, the angle widens, the field of view opens up, and we have what is called a wide-angle lens. With a telephoto lens, we have a greater focal length, so a greater distance between the center of the lens and the sensor of the camera. Camera or film? In the case of traditional cameras, then, this focal length has a close relationship with the opening of this angle of view. In fact, it is known as the field of view, and in many tools, including rendering or drawing tools, it is referred to in this way. In 3D, it is specifically known as the field of view, so that's why in SketchUp we find a width setting of 35 degrees when we open a new file. This value, therefore, can be modified. And soon we'll also see how to use advanced tools to adjust framing and the field of view like real photographers. The first thing to do is go to the camera menu where we find the field of view tool. Once you've clicked on this button, you can see the current field of view and simply enter a different value. For example, 65 to switch to a wide angle and see much more space around us. Or a smaller value like 20 degrees. If we want a telephoto style shot before moving on to rendering, let's talk for a moment about the advanced tools. Cameras that were removed in SketchUp 2022 used to come pre-installed in previous versions of SketchUp, but in 2022 they decided to remove them. However, you can still easily find them in the extension warehouse. They're free, and you can easily install them and start using them right away if you want to work like real photographers. In fact, they allow us to add cameras with the sizes and units of measurement of real cameras. If I right-click, I can see, in fact, the field of view I'm currently seeing expressed in focal length. Furthermore, they allow you to control many other elements. We literally have access to different types of lenses from real cameras. And in this way, we can also have a real field of view of our shot. So, how exactly does this specific topic of field of view relate back to various rendering engines? Well, for example, in V-Ray, you will notice there is nothing related to the field of view settings within its own menu. Simply put, the final image that gets rendered is exactly what you see on your screen in SketchUp. It is really that plain and simple. Be careful not to confuse field of view with depth of field, which instead refers to the depth of field, meaning the blurring of elements that are very far away or very close in our shot. There are also some advanced tools that are related to the type of lens you are using, but we won't be discussing those right now. That is, the various elements that define exposure in a camera in V-Ray. If you didn't know, let me point it out, there are even these kinds of tools. But let's move on to Enscape, where you can actually adjust the field of view. When we take a closer look at the visual settings, you will notice that this specific field of view setting can only be adjusted if the live synchronization between SketchUp and Enscape has been completely deactivated or disabled. By utilizing this specific method, we are completely free to seamlessly navigate and explore directly within the Enscape window, and we can also precisely adjust the field of view directly with the dedicated tool provided in the interface. And as you can see here as well, it's expressed in degrees just like in SketchUp. Specifically, the field of view in Enscape is measured relative to the horizontal line, the width of the image, whereas in SketchUp, if I remember correctly, it's measured along the vertical of our view. This means that sometimes there is a discrepancy between the framing and the field of view we see in SketchUp and in Enscape. But I won't go into detail about that now. We'll go deeper into this specific aspect in another video if necessary. So if you're thinking about an interior rendering, for example, I recommend using a wider field of view so you can see a larger portion of the space all around you, whereas if you're working on an exterior shot, you want to engage the viewer in a different way. Just like in real exterior architectural photography, you might choose a narrower field of view that distorts the depth lines of the space less. Let me remind you that if you want to learn more about SketchUp, you can visit my website schoolof3d.com, where you'll find videos. Courses that, little by little, will be translated into English from the main Italian platform scuola3d.it. School of 3D has just recently launched and will feature more and more video courses in the coming months. Bye and see you in the next video.